It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman. I am here with our executive director here at Redeemer Radio, Cindy Black, for Theology of the Body Thursday. Welcome back, Cindy.
Good morning.
Good to have you here again. And next week, we are actually going to be doing things a little bit different on Thursday because I'll be up in South Bend for the Viva Bocce Classic. Don't forget to sign up. You can find information at redeemerradio.com. So that is next Thursday already.
Yeah.
It's snuck up on here. So I'll be broadcasting from up there, so we won't be doing Theology of the Body Thursday. But next week is Natural Family Planning Awareness Week.
Yes.
So thought it'd be good to talk about that in advance so people can do whatever preparations they need to do for this big celebration.
Right. Yes.
All your NFP parties. And But so I suppose to start with, we should probably explain what natural family planning is, NFP. I know I mentioned this to my wife, and she was saying there's some people that are trying to move to calling it fertility awareness methods. I don't know if NFP at some point has gotten a little bit bad rep of thinking that it's not very practical or that it doesn't work well.
Yeah, when I was researching for today, a lot of the resources that I went to specifically said this is not the rhythm method.
Right. It seems like that always has to be a disclaimer because that's
Right.
what people want to lump it in with.
But I also think I haven't really heard it called the rhythm method. I mean, younger people do not necessarily call it the rhythm method.
Yeah.
So
I think I feel like that's more used by people that are trying to say that NFP is not practical or doesn't work because they want to call it the rhythm method.
Yes, and that they know failures from the past,
Right.
but it didn't include all the information about a woman's body that we know now.
Yeah.
Right. So starting with what it is, natural family planning or fertility awareness, what was that?
Methods.
Method.
I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Basically takes the human body the way that God created it and respects the fertility that God gave us.
Mm-hmm.
So males are fertile once they go through puberty. They're fertile all of the time, all month long, month after month, unless there's a medical issue.
Right.
Women are fertile certain times of the month, unless there's a medical issue. So basically what NFP does is takes the natural, healthy way that a woman's body works and allows married couples, to take that information and make decisions and discern choices about whether they'll come together in the marital act.
Right.
So if a couple prayerfully discerns that it is not necessarily a prudent time to conceive a child, then the couple can use indicators in the woman's body to know when to not engage in the marital act. But the real key to this is that people who don't contracept and people who practice NFP, it's really a matter of placing our families in the hands of God. It's not us saying we know better than God whether we should have a child or not, or whether we should engage in the marital embrace or not. It really is trusting in God's providence that He gave us these infertile times to be able to come together in the marriage act. Various methods of NFP are also very useful in understanding the woman's cycle and knowing if there are fertility issues, ways that the woman's body isn't working properly. So it really is a gift for both men and women to understand how a woman's body works, especially if when you make a vow for two to become one, then if you're going to love that whole person, understanding what her body's going through, I think, is necessary.
Well, and not just fertility issues, but as far as I understand, there's other medical issues that could be troubleshooted and fixed using natural family planning and fertility awareness to see like, oh, this is kind of irregular because of this, or you're having this kind of cramping because of this, and then they can fix the problem instead of just masking the problem.
Absolutely.
Treating the symptom, but instead treating the problem. So one of the things that you talked about was trusting God that in His plan. And so how do we balance this idea of trusting God and being open to life, but also having this either a feeling or a nervousness or whatever about spacing your family out. And so saying like, we're just not in a place either mentally or physically or financially to be able to have a child right now. So we don't believe that God is calling us to that, and we'd like to avoid a pregnancy. How do we balance that with trusting that God is in control?
A couple of things. St. John Paul the Great said he really looked at balancing generosity with our love with responsibility. So the church doesn't teach that couples have to have as many children as possible, but there has to be a generous gift of self in being open to God's will. And when you read stories, and that's what I would encourage a lot of people to do, if you struggle with the concept of NFP, read people's witness stories about it, because it isn't easy. I mean, it definitely is countercultural. It's difficult. But with anything in life, good things come from self-discipline and, again, that trust in God. So when you read people's stories, there are times when couples study their bodies and decide to engage in the marital act, and they don't think they'll conceive, but they do. That is not very common, but anytime a couple who is not contracepting engages in the marital act, they're saying we're open. They're really saying with their bodies, we're open to God's plan. All the indicators say that we won't conceive, so we're going to trust that if we do, I mean, it's a will of God.
Right. Which is a different mentality than somebody who's, I mean, contraception fails all the time as well. Not all the time, but frequently. And so it's a different attitude, I suppose, going in to using contraception and saying, if this fails, then this product failed me. Right. Versus if NFP, quote unquote, fails, if something happens different than we expected, the outcome is different than we expected, that's not a failure. It's a potential blessing. Right, absolutely. That mentality that we enter into it. And I really think that that's where the connection between contraception and abortion comes in. If we are engaging in sex and we separate it, we think we can engage in this and it's not going to result in a baby, that's a false notion, because that's the very thing. The only thing that brings about a new baby is the joining of egg and sperm. So we're really setting ourselves up as almost trying to be God of our bodies and say, no, I want to change the meaning of this. Right. I don't want this act to result in new human life. Well, it goes against the design completely. So then if you enter into a sexual act with a false understanding that it won't lead to new life, then you, like you said, you think that you were wronged somehow and that you have a right to do something to take care of that. Right. Kind of comes down to the idea of choice versus an openness. We're talking about NFP for the upcoming NFP Awareness Week, which starts July 22nd, goes to the 28th. That starts this Sunday. The 2018 theme is Generations of Love, Humanae Vitae, 1968 to 2018, so the 50-year anniversary of that. Celebrate God's gift of married love. And we're here with Cindy Black for Theology Body Thursday, discussing this and the idea of NFP, of natural family planning. But then whenever we talk about NFP awareness, they're always trying to raise awareness about all of these different, it seems like mostly medical things. And so what is something that you would hope that people are aware of regarding NFP? I would say, like anything in our life's journey, it's just that. It's a journey. That if somebody is listening and struggles with the concept of NFP, to really take that to prayer, to learn more about it, to, like I said, listen to other people's testimonies and witness stories, and really ask God to help you to understand and to trust Him in that. And to know that it really is about self-gift. Theology of the body we keep talking about. It's a notion of self-gift. It's gradually learning to make of ourselves a sincere self-gift to others and to God,
So honoring the way God has created us in a marriage relationship, honoring the way God has made our spouse, created our spouse, and dying to our selfish desires. Marriage is all about that, is you continue to learn to put your needs and wants secondary to our needs and wants. What is better for my spouse and our marriage? And really, that's what NFP helps couples do. And just like fasting, it's not easy.
Right.
And we can fail at times, but to continue to try and to continue to try to grow in that.
Yeah. Eating healthy, exercising, spending time in prayer, all of these
They're
different
all
things.
disciplines.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's good for us.
And NFP takes self-control and discipline. Absolutely.
Right. NFP, sometimes we might just use that term and people would think that there's just one way to do NFP. Right. But there are actually many different methods. Could you maybe just talk a little bit about that variety and maybe how somebody could find what method to look into? If they're like, okay, I should probably be looking into this because we're about to get married or we've been married for 15 years and using contraception, I want to stop. How do they know what to do? Well,
I think, again, doing some research, type in various NFP methods and look at what are the advantages and disadvantages. And a lot of it is going to depend on the woman's particular cycle. Some methods might work better than others. And I think most women I know glean a lot from a variety of methods. And anything that we can learn about how our bodies work and the signs with throughout the month and charting and keeping track of and paying attention to those things are ultimately going to help she and her husband embrace how she was created.
Yeah. I will, since this is starting on Sunday, I think what I'll do this weekend, I'll put a post on social media. So if you follow the Kyle Hyman Show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I'll put a post with links to past episodes where we've talked about this, and Dr. Doctor has talked about contraception as well. One of the interviews that I'll link to is with Dr. Marguerite Duane, who started up the FACTS, which is factsaboutfertility.org, and they talk about a couple different ways of monitoring your cycle and how you can use that. So we'll put all these resources together. Another one I might suggest, if you're struggling with the idea of contraception, Dr. Janet Smith's Contraception, Why Not? Is a really good explanation of NFP versus contraception. So
yes.
Thank you so much, Cindy, for joining us again for Theology Body Thursday. Appreciate it.
Great to be here.